All right, guys, we'll get this started with attendance. We'll start with Will, and then we'll go to the right.
William Coates, present.
Matthew Rathman, present.
Levi Chi, present.
Michael Warner, present.
Haley Glass, present.
Guy Childress, present.
Siobhan McKinney, present.
And online, can you make your presence known?
Patrick Sabero, present.
Ruby Call, present.
All right. Victor, real quick, we're doing attendance. Can you make yourself known?
Hello, Victor's here.
All right. Can I get someone to volunteer to read for the mission statement? I saw Sky first. I yield my time.
To support the evolving needs of the MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interests to enhance the university experience and opportunities.
Awesome. All right. Real quick, we do approval of the agenda. Has everyone had time to look over the agenda, look it over, approve it? All right. I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Seconded.
Been so long since that is. All opposed? Any abstentions? Awesome. Agenda approved. Agenda approved. I will note that it's 11:32, and we are scheduled for a public comment at 11:35. When that time rolls around, we'll make a moment to stop and ask if there's public comment. Otherwise, we just keep moving on to new business. First order of business: recommendation for a vote for handling. Well,
Apologies, I feel my blood sugar going down. So, it's come to the accountability's attention that our delegate William McEwen has not been participating, has not been upholding the minimum standards of the delegate program or as a delegate, and has removed himself from the group chat. And on top of that, recently saw him, but there was no exchange between me and him. So I'm pretty sure he is not wanting to be part of the delegate program and not part of student advocacy. And I would recommend that we remove him as a delegate. That way he doesn't get paid a stipend, because it's not fair to other delegates who have been participating for him to get a stipend if he hasn't been participating. I'm pretty sure that's like pretty easy logic to follow. So I wanted to get some discussion from the council on how to handle that, because it's never been done. But I'll leave it at that for comments.
any comments or any questions for Will regarding that? Haley?
It seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean, he removed himself, hasn't done anything for the program, so I don't think that it's necessary to have a discussion, in my opinion. But
Patrick?
Yeah, likewise, I concur with what Haley said. Me and Will were trying to reach out to him, send out an email regarding this. So, the opportunity to clarify things or to, extend the possibility of, finding out what's going on, was given. And, he hasn't reached out. He's kind of isolated himself from us. So I think, just like Haley said, I don't think it's much conversation needed else to decide on, what's fair isn't fair. We have a lot of delegates here like Irby, like Sky, and like Saab. We have all these individuals, Chase, all these delegates have been directly involved. They've done their part, and it's not fair that they get their stipends, that he gets one as well, doing nothing. So yeah, I agree with that statement. I yield.
Sorry, did you have something else? Okay. Real quick, it is 11:35. Is there anyone here for public comment? No? All right, we'll keep the conversation moving. It was Sky, then Will. Sky, I yield my time.
Okay, beautiful. I just wanted to say, yeah, I don't recognize this person's name, so that tells me something. But I also wanted to ponder to the council before they vote on this, what they are going to do with that stipend money, if they're going to redistribute it to the other delegates like they would with counselors, or if they want to just put it back into a fund, just to consider as you vote.
Will?
I believe Patrick is the best to answer that question since he is the budget chair, but I'm assuming you can correct me, Pat. That stipend money will go back to the program itself, which would be, and I'm guessing it's going to be rolled over next year since it won't be used, like most of the monies that aren't used this year. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pat.
Yeah, Patrick?
No, Will, you're right there, Will, because as you all know, that the delegate program was a resolution that we put in to the not the Constitution, but we put in for this year. So there's any specific guidelines as to this. So we're gonna treat it as a usual, as an advisory committee, as we all do. So any excess amount, we will do a roll forward. But if we could leave it up to discussion to see what we could do with the rest of it. But as it stands right now, with no discussion or anything like that, just to keep things simple, it will be just like in any other advisory committee where it'll just roll over till next semester.
All right. Will?
With all that being said, then if there's no other comments, I motion that we vote to remove Delegate William McEwen from the delegate program. And with that, him not receiving his stipend.
Seconded. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Motion passed.
Um,
Go ahead, Will.
I'll get with Armando, whoever William's under, it's Stephen or Armando, and then we'll send them an email out that he has been removed and for not being in compliance, just to give the council some more information on how that process is going to go.
Is there any questions for Will about anything he said? No? Then we'll move on to next order of business. Food for finals. Resolution to mobilize and fund food for finals.
Yes. I am almost on campus, and I'll be able to read it there in person. Just give me a second, y'all.
I would say the same thing. I cannot read it right now at this moment. So if someone could read it for us, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to make a motion to push back the resolution for food for finals. And after, so that way you can do accountability first.
Yes, thank you.
Seconded.
Okay. All opposed? Any abstentions? Awesome. All right. We're going to go to the accountability committee guidelines and procedures and then return to food for finals.
Do you mind? Wait, is he? Oh, perfect. Thank you, Brandon. Give me just one moment. I might have to ask Matt to take over. I'm getting shaky over here. 1 second. No, you don't need to call anybody. I just need to eat something. All right. Ready. Matt, do you mind taking over, please?
Sure. Please scroll down a little, Brandon. So this resolution is to create the policies and procedures for the accountability committee in relation to the amendment that was passed last week. So this resolution to create accountability committee guidelines and procedures. Many of these sections will need to be developed further and will need to be expanded upon like any other governing documents. but this would set the groundwork for the next council to continue to build in clarity and transparency of the mission, responsibilities, and roles of the Accountability Committee. Whereas the Student Advocacy Council SG-TSAC has reached a stage in its growth where we can build a sustainable structure for those who will follow in our footsteps. Being able to create and utilize procedures and guidelines provides a better structure and transparency to the work that SG-TSAC does. Whereas the Accountability Committee will incorporate these guidelines and procedures below to achieve the committee's goals outlined in Article 1, Section 4, Subsection 1 of the Constitution. And so I have this split up in two sections because for the committee, we created the guidelines procedures kind of as one document, but because they need different like simple majority and super majority to approve different sections, I separated them in here. So this next section would fall under the definition of procedures and would need a super majority to pass. So that's why, like, where it says section 2, it might look out of place because I just copied and pasted from the actual document. You scroll back up just a hair. Yeah. So this section is counselor accountability. Counselors will be held accountable for the responsibilities related to their positions that are outlined in the Constitution, committee guidelines and procedures, student code of conduct, elections code, sunshine laws, or any other university or campus policies. And in this section here, I just outlined all the different articles and sections within our Constitution that outline different counselor responsibilities. Then the link to the code of conduct to reference, committee guidelines, procedures. We would be adding links to this section as committee procedures and guidelines are created, just so we also have a list of those within the accountability committee. We have links to the campus policies for area campus, and we would cover sunshine laws, but sunshine laws is also covered in a different section within our procedures. So we'll go over here in just a sec. Counselors will first utilize the accountability committee to resolve interpersonal issues. The accountability committee will utilize restorative justice practice first whenever appropriate. Section 3 goes over restorative justice process. Accountability will continue to work with the Restorative Justice Coalition and the Dean of Students Conflict Resolution Services to develop these procedures. And I put links to both those organizations. While these initial procedures are in development, the Accountability Committee will work with the Restorative Justice Coalition to assist in facilitating restorative justice processes as needed for the council. So we still need to develop these procedures more out next year, but they can come in and help us kind of patchwork it in so it'll still function as we're developing it. Section 4, constitutional review and integration. All accountability committee members, elected and appointed, will offer to meet with the authors of a newly ratified amendment where only the authors of the amendment can opt out of the meeting with the accountability committee to integrate the language of a new amendment into the Constitution. This is done to make sure that the intended language and messaging is held intact with the integration of the amendment into the Constitution. The Accountability Committee will ensure that when a new amendment is proposed, that it does not conflict with other language in the Constitution, other language in the amendment is intentionally trying to change, add, or subtract of. C, when saving a new version of the Constitution, the Accountability Committee will follow the instructions outlined in Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution. I think I probably need to do a friendly amendment to this myself to add the article. Oh no, it's there, never mind. Section 4, just sunshine laws. So this next year we'll need to work with David Fine and digest the law to bring up better context. But right now we have a link to the Colorado sunshine laws or open meeting laws and a link to David Fine and general counsel. So all of that section, because they're tied to other policies, would need a supermajority to pass. Whereas this section, because they would be more guidelines, would only need a simple majority to pass. So the accountability mission statement is the mission of the accountability committee is to uphold the Constitution, ensure sunshine laws are followed, and to hold counselors and the council to the standard of excellence and leadership needed to fulfill the mission of the council. This will be accomplished by supporting counselors' personal, professional, and academic goals and facilitating conflict resolution processes to set counselors up for success in their roles as student leaders in TSAC. Section 1, Accountability Committee Member Responsibilities. Read the whole Constitution and all accountability procedures and guidelines, meet at least monthly. The Accountability Committee will check in with counselors once a month just to see how the counselor is doing as a temperature check. Unless said counselor or counselors are referred to the Accountability Committee by others. If possible, the Accountability Committee will help counselors find the resources they need to be successful personally, professionally, and academically so they can succeed in their roles being SG-TSAC counselors. We would also incorporate ratified amendments in the Constitution, do yearly checkups on the Constitution. The chair of the Accountability Committee will choose 2 TSAC counselors to be part of the Accountability Committee, organize safety-oriented training, and ensure sunshine laws are followed. Section 5, safety and active harm training. The Accountability Committee shall organize safety and / active harm trainings for the student body to include the council in collaboration with Student Affairs, AHEC Police, Student Care Center, and Restorative Justice and Student Conflict Resolution. Contact information for partnering organizations, including those listed above, is in the Accountability Committee folder and should be updated as needed. The link to the document is here, and that's just a link to like a little contact list. And then therefore it be resolved that the above guidelines procedures will become governing documents for the Accountability Committee to utilize by the Accountability Committee in the execution of their duties and responsibilities.
Any questions for Matt or Will on that document? I yield my time, Sky.
I absolutely like it. I love it. I wanted to ask, there's 2 separate sections. There's the part that would require a majority vote and the part that would require supermajority. I have the question of if we are amending our governing documents in this meeting, essentially, because this will be used as a governing document on our Constitution. We're creating procedure, which is binding and will be binding from now until it possibly changed in the future. If we're creating governing documents, should we be following the same process we normally use for amendments so that you get a week to introduce it and then you get to vote on it the next week? The amendment that we had to create the possibility of guidelines and procedures did not touch this issue, did not answer the question of do we need to give a week's notice or not? Our Constitution in that section, because I looked over it trying to think about this, our Constitution states that amendments need to be given that notice, but it doesn't specify whether that's only when amending the Constitution itself or when amending any governing documents. However, in that same section, it does speak about how procedures, I think it says guidelines will be governing documents. And I want to seek clarification on if we're allowing procedures to be approved without that week's notice. I want to think about how this could possibly be abused in the future and essentially be used to edit constitutional language or reinterpret constitutional language without giving the council the full notice that we've previously recognized it needs.
Matt?
So with the amendment that passed last week, and again, if we want to debate some of this as well, that's fine. But we put it in there that the guidelines and procedures would be presented in similar fashions to resolutions. And that was actually in the language of that amendment. But it is still a valid question if we want to put padding like that, what you're referencing. But that is still more of a needs to be interpreted.
Sky, I yield.
Recalling that, I would agree with you. I don't think there's any procedural reason why you could not put this forward for a vote and it would not still be binding. But I want to ask you to consider, as one of the authors, what setting the precedent of allowing us to edit procedures without that advance notice could set, given that this document has not been available for more than just a few days to the council. And I would also seek in the future for us to actually amend that amendment again to make it to where that's clear if that's what we want to do. But just for the purposes of today, while I don't feel like you would be prohibited from doing that, I think that we should take out the procedural language as largely it's in development anyways, and just work on that first week next year.
Any response or comments to that? Matt or Mike?
I agree. I mean, all three of the authors basically are here next year too, so you might get some better feedback on it. But or you could honestly just pass this as a resolution to keep it in documents and records, and like make a more binding amendment next year.
Matt?
I guess part of why I hesitated to jump right back in because this is my work and I want to check more with the council to see what we think as a whole. So it's not just me directly just giving my opinion. Yeah, I think. Oh. Fortunately, I kind of lost my train of thought. No, you're good. But technically right now it is written in the amendment that these would be more pass-like resolutions. But I also don't disagree that the amendment should be edited to maybe bring more clarification to that. So yeah, I kind of want to leave it more up to the council to kind of help me decide whether we should try and push this today or try and wait until next year. But part of why I wanted to do this draft is more to set up the framework for somebody to pick up and run with next year. And I did kind of want to have some of the sections in here that would frame the culture and purpose of the accountability committee be more supportive than like an HR. But I will yield at that.
Amelia?
Yeah, I just was wondering if you could explain what would be changing if this was passed, because I heard, some elements on this document that, to my knowledge, like sunshine laws already exist. So can you, I guess, describe like what the new implementations if this were to be passed?
So right now, as far as like having sunshine lights on there is I took all the responsibilities under the section of the standing committees under accountability, and I was filling in different sections. So that section is actually more of like a placeholder because next year the goal would be to work with David Fine to explore the law and get better like definitions and explanations to fill the section. So then all council members can have access to easier digestible information on how to ensure we're following sunshine laws. So this is kind of like a draft to kind of prep the next council to expand upon it and build it out.
Oh, Amelia, do you?
Yeah, thank you, Levi. I do have a follow-up. That's really helpful to understand. I guess around like the procedures in terms of like resolutions, amendments, kind of going back to what Sky was talking about. Can you provide some further clarification about what you're essentially like when you sat down to write this, what was the vision for trying to be changed or implemented? I guess like I really want to hear like what your headspace was or what goal you were trying to accomplish, and for anybody else on this as well.
Real quick, did you have like a response to clarify that, Will, or?
Well, I just wanted to further expand on Amelia's first question as to what would change if this were to be passed. And part of it was to also keep the accountability accountable, because within the responsibilities, if the future accountability committee isn't upholding their responsibilities, that would be a point to bring up to the council as to whether or not why they're not upholding those guidelines or those rules set out for the committee. But as for this question, the second question, I'll let, I guess, Matt answer.
Go ahead, Matt.
So to a degree, it will change some stuff and also not really change a lot at all. Because basically all we're doing is trying to expand a little of the definitions of our responsibilities within the Constitution and trying to set it to where the next council can make it easier to kind of build it out and just explain it further. Because like with restorative justice and like sunshine laws, I think we really need to build those out better. So then all the counselors have a better understanding of like, say a counselor ends up needing to work with the accountability committee with restorative justice practices. We want to make sure that we're not blindsiding them. We want it to be transparent so they know what they're going into, just like the sunshine laws. This is just basically starting more just naming it so then we can expand upon it. The main thing that would cause more of a change is probably the mission statement, because it's more trying to frame the culture of the accountability committee that has not been outlined other places.
Here, real quick, did you have a follow up to that, Amelia?
No, thank you.
Patrick?
Just hitting off what Matt was saying, I wouldn't necessarily, these are guidelines, as it says in their guidelines. So just like the budget committee, just like, those guidelines, for at least for me, for someone who just entered recently, it was helpful when at times I was able to communicate with Mike, who is experienced, or individuals that have that experience, dealing with what procedures I should follow. Similar with the accountability, I think our intention really is so once the new council enters, we can start with the ground running. So that way we don't have to wait a week or 2 weeks, couple of weeks to see what kind of guidelines we haven't. This, I guess, want to say, clarify with Matt, is more of like an outline that how we want to proceed with this. So this is something that we expect to evolve. And I guess that's why we didn't want to make it an amendment, because we want this to be something that can consistently evolve and change. And we don't have to need read-throughs. And just like right now, we're about to be voting on it. So if the council doesn't like what the write-ins are saying or the guidelines specifics, we are able to vote against it if it doesn't follow. But I do agree with what you're saying, Sky, in terms of what these are governing documents, and that the information and what's written in there does have an importance to our Constitution and to our government. So, I just did want to clarify, if anyone didn't really know too much about it, was it more of like our guidelines or outline so we can get started next semester, or for accountability committee, have something started and imply more, because I feel like there's still a lot left that we can put on this. As you guys can see, it's not like mine is like budget guidelines, like 12 pages. So, this isn't completed yet. However, this will help us get started on next semester with fresh faces, fresh ideas, and be able to get things going. So that way we can, rather than focus on restructuring our government every year, we can focus on implementing what we're supposed to do. I yield.
Sky?
Okay. I like the parts that are in here, even the procedures parts. I like it. I would propose, and just putting the words out there, of an amendment that a counselor could propose, that would, in my opinion, be a very good compromise for this and make everyone happy. The section where it says, whereas the following sections would fall under the definition of procedures and would need a supermajority to pass, just change that to, this is a guidance for next year to create the procedures, and in the interim, they will be considered guidelines, so that they're not actually governing documents, but it does give guidance for hit the ground running for the accountability committee to create procedures and to, in the interim, use guidelines as their procedures, even if they're not binding.
Sorry, we were just connecting with
We
you
were
Canada,
discussing.
since we're also both authors on it.
I do like that actually, because this was never. It's like this is really just trying to give the next cycle something to build off of, and they can change it however they want. It's just we want something for them so they're not lost or like don't know nothing, right? We don't want we want to build every cycle up so it's better than the last. But I do agree with that friendly amendment, and I would also, well, we've discussed, me and Matt, so I would definitely propose that friendly amendment to the document. Yeah.
Matt?
Because yeah, this was kind of a blend of like helping more explain more of our policies and procedures that more exist, and like the gaps like with restorative justice. I just want to add stuff so that we had a safety net while we're developing it, but it could also be more like a guideline as well. So it's kind of a mix of like guidelines, procedures, and transition documents.
Yeah, I would propose that we do change that language. I do think that's
I motion a friendly amendment.
I was doing that.
Oh,
Okay.
Seconded for Patrick.
Thanks, Levi.
All right. To make that friendly amendment,
It's been proposed, it's been seconded. We have to go through with it.
The language wasn't.
Vote, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
all right.
Point of order, Levi. Can you clarify the language? There's some people that have some questions over here.
The motion's already made.
He clarify the language before people vote on it so that they know what they're voting on.
Yeah, sure. Patrick, could you clarify what you said?
yeah. So just wanted to go. I'll yield my time to Sky, see what she wanted to say, and then we can go forward so we can make sure we're all in agreement with it.
The language that I would suggest from that is an amendment that changes the whereas the following sections would fall under the definition of procedures and would need a supermajority to pass. To change that to be the following sections would act as interim guidelines with the purpose of guiding next year's accountability committee in the creation of procedures.
Awesome. The motion's made. So for the changes that Sky proposed, along with the language that Haley added, make a motion to vote. So all opposed to this? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes for that friendly amendment from the language that Sky and Haley discussed.
So just to clarify, now we will just need a simple majority to pass all sections of this. So do you just want to do it as one vote then, Matt and Will?
Let's make it interesting. Add like a roll call vote. If
I was gonna also say let's do the roll call vote.
Do you guys just want to do it as one vote though altogether now that it's just a simple
Yes,
majority instead of
yes.
different ones? Okay, that was my
Yes.
question. All right.
And we'll make a roll call vote to pass this. Or sorry, I'll make a motion to make a roll call vote to pass this.
Second it.
All right, then we'll get started. Michael Warner,
Aye.
supposed to say yay or nay.
Yes.
Glass,
Yay.
myself, Levi Chi, I vote yay. Matthew,
Yay.
Victor, Victor, we didn't hear anything.
just skip them. Keep it going.
All right, William,
Yay.
Patrick,
Yay.
Siobhan,
Yay.
Amelia. We also didn't hear anything. Susanna,
Yay.
Yay.
Victor, could you
Yay.
again? Okay. All right. Well, no nays. It all passes. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll move on to our next order of business. Food for finals. The resolution. Patrick and Susanna.
Good afternoon, TSAC. All right. So this is a resolution for the PR committee, our annual and, well, I would say every semester versus whatever. For our food for finals, our tradition here at TSAC, funding here. So I'm just going to start reading it off, y'all, if you want to follow. A resolution to mobilize and fund food for finals, authored by Patrick Cervera and Susana Villagomez, endorsed by happy people. Abstract. Student government, the Student Advocacy Council, SGTSAC, continues its commitment to support MSU Denver students during critical academic periods. Through its public relations committee, SGTSAC will host Food for Finals, a 2-day event offering free breakfast, snacks, school supplies, and wellness-themed goodie bags. The initiative aims to nourish and support students during finals while fostering a welcoming and relaxed environment.
Patrick, you pull the mic a little bit away.
Whereas the Metropolitan State University student government, the Student Advocacy Council mission is to support the evolving needs of the MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interest to enhance the university experience and opportunities. As we all know, finals week can significantly impact students' physical and mental well-being, as many students deprioritize basic needs in favor of academic performance. Whereas the Public Relations Committee will host Food for Finals on May 12th and May 13th from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. on campus. I think it should be from 8 a.m., but we'll be there from 7 a.m. on campus, offering a reliable space for students to eat, relax, and prepare for their exams. Whereas SGTSAC will provide breakfast options from local vendors, school supplies, and custom goodie bags containing sunscreen, lip balm, small toys, e.g. Stress relief fidgets and gummy bears, all intended to uplift students and help them recharge. Whereas the event will encourage interaction between SGTSAC and the wider student body, enhancing awareness of student government services, resources, and advocacy efforts. Whereas all items and services will be funded by SGTSAC with a budget of $5,391.52 allocated towards catering, supplies, decoration, and materials. Therefore, be it resolved, SGTSAC will host and fully fund the Food for Finals event on May 12th, May 13th, providing food, supplies, and wellness-themed goodie bags free of charge to students. Funding will be drawn from the public relations budget. SGTSAC members will staff the event and maintain an open and inviting atmosphere to promote well-being and engagement during Finals Week. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Patrick or Susanna? Saw Haley first. Haley, then Matt.
Are we having the massage therapist come back?
Yes, I forgot to add that.
Okay, perfect.
But that's for the relaxing atmosphere right there, guys.
Matt.
Do we already have potentially flyers for this so we can start advertising ASAP?
Yeah, we have flyers and we also have buttons too.
Okay, Irving, I'll yield my time.
I have decided the buttons. I sent it on the PR committee teams, so I want the decision on that, if that's final for the buttons. And I want to have a question for Susanna that did we decide the budget for the food vendors as well? The budget that we created for the decoration and supplies for the goodie bags?
What do you mean by that?
the budget that we created last Friday didn't had those food vendors allocated for the budget.
Didn't I'm confused by your question. Like, are you saying that we didn't have the food vendors on it, or can you specify?
I'm just trying to say that the budget that we decided on the supplies that we are allocating to the students didn't have the food vendors in our budget.
And
I
just
think
sorry, Susanna. Just to clarify,
that's
Irvi,
okay.
that total price is the supplies, the catering from Etais, the space that we're allocating, the food, the masseuses that we're also going to be having there. So that's going to be the whole price for everything that we have, including what you and Susanna had. Her and I were making sure that everything fit. So I remember your original price was about $3,000. That's only including those specifically. We weren't including about $1,500 from the masseuses that we're going to hire. So that's why that price increased. And we also additionally added oranges and bananas. That way, we, keeping that traditional that we always have been doing.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments for Susanna or Patrick? Haley?
I motion to approve this resolution for food for finals.
So moved.
Seconded. All right. Any objections? Any abstentions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Resolution passes. Congratulations. All right. There's no more stuff. We'll move on to board and committee announcements / updates. Getting started with our very own Michael.
Yes. I have a question for the advisors in relation to board trustees. Have y'all made contact with Maria yet? Okay, cool. Let me know when I can kind of start onboarding all that stuff. I was told you'd like to talk to her first, so I'll respect your wishes. So just let me know. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. SACAB.
So, in SACAP, we finished our updating the bylaws and it was passed today. Yeah. That's all I have. Oh, that was
Well,
So there's a little bit more. Sorry, Siobhan. Yeah, that was the biggest part of the meeting. They were also discussing that some purchases for SACAB. And then I believe you went to the Tivoli Reimagine, correct, Siobhan? I don't know if you wanted to. Yeah, I'll just hand it over to you.
so this morning with the Tivoli Reimagine Committee, they finally chosen the contractor that will be working with us, and it's called the CGF Architectural Firm. And we went over the goals of for the program planning, and I've jotted down the most interesting ones for me, in my opinion. So they were talking about how they're going to reserve the historic the it's going to there's going to be a historic preservation, so they're not like tearing down anything and rebuilding it. They're just remodeling. They're going to be revolutionizing the dining experience, also creating the heart of make the Tivoli building be the heart of the campus, and that will also maximize revenue for the building. And the biggest focus was on making the building accessible to everyone, especially I think that's the west side, on the west side where the welcoming side is. You know, like how there's just a step and then people with wheelchair or you know, less mobility, they would have to go into the elevator on the others in that the other side. Well, anyhow, they're going to be building some kind of ramp or something to go with the stairs. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And thank you. That's about it.
Well,
That was the most important part.
There was one last thing I actually do remember. There's going to be a vote next week about the menstrual products. I foresee that. I foresee that passing with flying colors, so there shouldn't really be a concern there. I do want to commend Susanna's work in that area. So good job, Susanna. That's a big thing. So good job on that.
Sky, you had something to say?
Just want to ask a question. Bylaws of SACAB, do they have to be approved by ABOD? And then also, is there a transition plan when June 1st hits for, I don't know if SACAB continues to meet when students aren't in classes or if they start meeting earlier than we do to get the new SACAB reps onboarded? Have they been in contact or?
Okay. Just a direct. Can I?
Yeah,
All right.
go ahead.
Direct response is I'll answer that second portion. I'm not 100% sure on the first portion of your question. Might have to refer to Matt for that one. But for MSU Denver, we are connecting them with SACAB. I can't speak on the other schools. So we have started that process, at least with one of the delegates who has won the position. I believe we need to bring in Rowan. Rowan, right? Okay. We need to bring in Rowan to start talking to them about what that transition looks like. And also, the chair of SACAB has asked us to start writing up some kind of transition documents for the next people coming in. What was that first portion of your question? Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah.
Susanna, did you have something to say?
No, it was just about the menstrual products, but Matt is gonna come catch me up after it.
All right then. Is there any more questions or comments for SACAB? Someone to yield?
I
I'll
yield my
yield.
time.
I was just going to ask if someone knows really quickly, chair elections for SACAB, how does that work and when does that?
Want to answer that?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matt. By the way, this information can be information about SACAB outside of the meeting, just for clarification.
It would be similar to how we elect our chairs in TSAC. We start with our first meeting and vote on the different committee and chair positions.
All right, any more questions for SACAB that cannot be solved outside of the meeting? No? We're going to move on to election man, Sam.
All right, not a lot of updates today. All the newly elected councilors accepted, so it's official. It's super official after inauguration, but you know we're there. We did it. So yeah, I'm excited for inauguration next week. I think it's going to be really fun. We got a lot of fun stuff planned. My role for the rest of the year will be mostly transition oriented. So we do have like an elections manual, but it has not been updated since before I started. So I'll be working on that. Hello? Okay. Well, I will be modifying the elections code to reflect any necessary updates and then do like kind of housekeeping to make sure things are smooth for next year. So yeah, if y'all got any like questions or concerns or comments or suggestions for transitions, please let me know. Me and the advisors, you know, like you guys say, for the council, want to keep things running smooth on our end too for elections. So it's kind of the same idea. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything on the elections end. Thanks y'all for your support throughout the season.
All right, Will first.
Thank you, Sam. You did an amazing job, and I really want to commend like you being a great elections manager. I do have a question in regards to changes and all of that, and then I can kind of potentially see a conflict of interest that from us as incoming, or some of us incoming into that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that process in regards to like counselors in TSAC influencing elections codes and all of that. I'm not saying we can't have an opinion, but I'm just trying to wonder where that line is drawn for you as an elections manager, since you have the authority there. And I just want to get a feel.
Yeah, so I'm open to input from anybody. I know the context that you all kind of exist in within TSAC, so I think I'm comfortable hearing your thoughts and then weighing that. I'm not concerned about elections collusion ideas, but if I detect anything, I'll certainly reject those suggestions. But yeah, no, like if anyone has any ideas, let me know. I'm not planning on making any extreme changes, but just looking for like contradictions or, anything that like inefficiencies, things like that. I just want to make sure it's all set for the next person. I see a question.
Yeah, anyone want to yield to Sky?
I yield.
I know we as a group have recommended changes to you in the past that you've incorporated. But when you get your final version of the election, however we input or whatever, when you get your final version of it that you're going to do this year, whichever council is currently in office, will you please notify them?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
send it out. If it's after June 1st, send it to the new counselors. If it's before, send it to the current members. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do that. We'll probably decide what changes we're gonna do and then do them in one sweep instead of a bunch of different ones. So I'll have a informed update for everyone when we roll that out.
Any more questions or comments for Sam? No? Okay, we'll move on to accountability committee with Will.
Well, thanks again, everyone. There's really not much left in regards to accountability, since this, I believe, is our last meeting to officially vote on things unless we determine otherwise as a council. But I do want to thank everyone for their participation, their comments, their opinions. In this process, it's been a long year for I'll speak for myself, for me, working on the Constitution, getting that ratified, and having that pass with flying colors, thankfully. And then I just want to say it's a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. And so the next cycle and the incoming counselors, present and not present, it's kind of handing off the torch and seeing what they do with it, and hopefully they do some good work and fix any issues that they might find with it. And that's what it's there for. So thank you, everyone.
Questions for Will? All right, budget committee.
So I have a couple things here today. So we're gonna be voting on two different approvals for funding. One of them is gonna be for the betas, and the other one's gonna be for the it was the teaching APS. It's for the APS, which all psychology majors would know about. So it's a conference. So I have two different documents here. First one we're presenting is for the UIFI 2025, which is for the Undergraduate Interfraternity Institute. So beginning right here, so the total budget, if you can scroll down a little bit, for this one is going to be for $722, excluding the Uber as I'm not so sure we can cover that since that one would be direct cash and we're not allowed to do that. However, we will be definitely to incorporate for this instead of the 752.50, it'll be the 722.50, which is going to be for the round trip flight and for the it's going to be for round trip flight. I think that's all he has. Oh, and the registration, of course. So the total approval for that one is 722.50. I would like to motion. Any questions, comments about it? Sky?
Go ahead.
Math is not mathing on that. That's not $60 difference. That's $30 difference. I just want to make sure we know the right number.
Yeah.
Someone check that formula. Just make sure. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, I see that too now.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Sky. Regardless, we will be paying for what's on column E on E28, which is 722.50 because we wouldn't be able to cover the Uber. So according to the math, it's 692.05 to what we're approving on here. Good math.
Susanna?
Is this basically a reimbursement? Okay.
Any other questions? Matt?
As far as maybe some clarification on the math, the Uber says per diem, so it's per day, and there's 2 days, so it does actually come out to 60 versus the 30.
Yeah, we
Unless
would either
that's
way we
enough.
wouldn't be able to include that Uber. It would just be the registration and the flight because we can't do anything cash. So unless you can pre-order Ubers, we cannot. No, we can't do.
Any more questions?
I was just gonna say you can pre-order them, you can pre-schedule them if that's something that the
Thank you for raising your hand.
Oh, sorry.
Keep going.
You can pre-order them if that's something the student org is interested in, and if that's something we have the bandwidth for. I know it's like getting close to end of the semester and final, so I don't know how complex that system would be going through TSAC, but I have ordered them and scheduled ahead. I don't know if that would work, but just a potential idea.
Follow up to that, Patrick?
Yeah, I think if that is in a realm possibility, I think we have to look into that further. As of right now, until I can get reassured that I'm not too sure. I'd rather just roll forward with the registration and the round trip. I would like to ask Mike if he has any inquiries in here.
We can't do gift cards. You can technically do a pre-order registration, but that's kind of complicated. I'd leave it to your judgment, whatever you like. And also depends how much money you have left, but there's only $60. It's up to you, I'd say. Your professional opinion.
That's the case, then can we approve for a pre-order Uber specifically for that? Would that be something we can do?
Real quick, well, Sky, someone yield time to Sky?
I just wanted to say that I don't think we have to solve this now. I think that we can approve the maximum amount of funding we would give to them in the event that we are able to logistically, and that can be the way you frame the motion to vote on this. And then, even though because we don't have future meetings, so we don't have time to discuss this later, and then we will let whoever the money then comes from decide if they can or cannot accommodate that $60 to however they can make that Uber happen or not.
Real quick, Armando?
I was with the student when they were prepping the budget. They didn't know, but UIFI will cover transportation to and from the airport. So that was in there preemptively. You don't have to worry about that.
I would like to motion to proceed with the payment of the registration and the flight, which would be come out to $692.50.
I second.
Right then. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right, congratulations. It passes.
Congratulations. Congratulations up to the beta chapter there for Miguel. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming through us, and we look forward to see what you're able to achieve. So next following we have is for Brandon Martinez in the APS funding request. So this one is specifically for a this is under a department, if I recall, specifying this is for the it was a really cool name. It was like something teaching. It was really good. But the point is, this is for the study, as these two had this team that's been directly involved within the university, within specifically like biochemistry and other fields in biology. They've been conducting surveys and studies for students, seeing about retention rates and all those other things. So they've been progressing pretty well here, and establishing a direct line connection between MSU and one of our alumni that is in Congress right now. So he's establishing that within our psychology field, and they're going to be asking to go to the event for the Association for Psychological Science, which if you go take any intro to psych, you will have a book about that from them. They're going to be requesting to go there and present. Not exactly present. I think they're going to go to a couple workshops, and then formally here we'll present what they have here and dive more into their studies and how they can help out here in MSU. I believe this one, I highly encourage that this one is to look a bit further in this one, because this one does a lot of good work for MSU and gives a lot of opportunities to our students. So just breaking down to the math here, they're asking for a metro passes. So they're going to Washington, D.C. So their total for 7 days is going to be for 4. So it's going to come out to $62.61. And the registration fee, which is going to be $288.72. And then for 2 of the hidden fees for the hotel rooms, which is going to be $289.88. That's going to bring it up to a total of $641.21. Any questions? Matthew?
At the beginning, it sounded like you referenced this was from a department.
There are a club under the department. So just like with mock trial.
Okay, so that still works within our budget committee bylaws, because I was just thinking that it was only for registered student orgs with CMEI, but does it count those types of orgs as well?
This goes for leadership development. So it doesn't specific. So we have separate ones. So we're able to sponsor, we're able to do for student travel for students additionally. So it's not just limited to organizations. Furthermore, they also went through the student travel as well. Will?
Just a quick comment, and kind of want to say it earlier, but I think maybe plant a seed here and say that we should, like, this group is taking the passes for transportation and how we took passes in New Orleans. I think that should be maybe more set the standard if we do pay for transportation. Just saying.
Any more questions for Patrick? Questions or comments? No? Would someone like to make a motion?
A motion to vote.
Second.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, then it passes. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brandon. We'll be sending you a letter soon.
All right, Susanna.
This is like an outside question, but this just reminded me of, this is directly to Steven. I saw an email that Diana followed up to see if she got any updates, but I didn't follow up with the reimbursement that we got for Diaz. Was that did that payment went through or not?
That came to
my work day, but I didn't know what it was, and the work tags were wrong.
Uh-huh.
So on the work tags, it said everything student travel, but then it had our work tag, so I didn't understand if that needed to be for us or for student travel. I just sent it back this morning. Is that something that needed to be paid by student government?
Yeah, because we made, well, Ada chapter went and it was a long process. We took forever to respond back to them. And then they needed to pay out of their pocket due of the response delay time. And then we were messaging back and forth, but I mostly let that charge in Diana. And she told me that she haven't heard an update yet. So we were supposed to.
Okay, so then I will follow back up with the finance people and make sure.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Susanna for PR.
I just want to say thank you to all of us for able to bring a very successful year. I think we were able to bring more. I think we brought more student engagement to student government. And just an update that we have, please sign up for the sign up genius that Patrick did send through. It's just for us to know like who is going to be there for food for finals, because for the both days I will not be able to attend. Just like for the last hour. And that me and Ovi are also coming up with the flyer for Food for Finals. That should be posted by Monday next week. So it's like give us enough time to promote it. And that is pretty much it with my updates.
Will.
A quick question for the PR chairs. How many people have signed up? Just curious.
So far it's just me, Haley. I believe you signed up too. And I just need to go and double check, but it's just a reminder. Just
Yeah.
to sign up.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Suzanne? Patrick?
No, mine was a question, but as chair, co-chair, I will also on this. I did want to thank everybody who did participate in the culture clash this week. I think you want to come in and help out, and I know it was a little bit, I want to say meticulous, but it was a little bit rushed. I feel like in the beginning, especially with Tamales and Alfajores. So shout out to Haley for being able to answer the phone over there. And for everyone for giving up your time here, and Susanna, of course, it was a part of it and helped, coordinate everyone when I wasn't there. But I did want to say, if anyone that hasn't signed up yet, I will be resending that through the teams. That would give everyone an opportunity to not have to scroll up. I'll highly encourage delegates as well to participate. This is our traditional thing, and new ideas are always welcome, except for a new mascot. That mascot's solidified. He will not change. But anything else, definitely open to suggestions. So the waffle, no, yes.
Awesome. Is there any more questions for PR committee? No? Okay, we'll move on to sustainability. Victor, Haley?
I don't think we have any updates, but I'll just echo the thoughts of everybody else. Thank you guys for a really successful year. We had some really great events. We'll just be making sure that we're including stuff for AHA Week and Earth Week and all the other great events that we did this year in transition documents that next year you guys can keep it going since Victor and I are both graduating.
Is there any more questions or comments for Victor or Haley? Well, or Matt?
I just wanted to read the comment that Victor put in the chat of his update for sustainability is nothing, just working on transition documents. Gracias.
All right, any more questions? All right then, Faculty and Staff Senate, Matt and Siobhan.
No updates
No,
because
no.
there haven't been any meetings this month.
All right then, delegate updates. Start with Sky. Anyone want to yield their time?
It's delegate updates,
Yeah.
Okay, I have just a couple things. Last meeting, very exciting. This morning I had a meeting with Dean Tackett. I met largely as an incoming counselor for planning for next year, but I want to update you guys and the council on what I heard. They are actively working on changing our student code of conduct over this summer, and we'll be requesting three counselors next year to sit on some sort of committee to revamp our code of conduct, and are looking to decrease the penal aspect that they've found in it. The reason that we're not already included in it is because they have to work with general counsel to get some of the things that are statutorily required in there first, and then start changing the things that are just MSU policy. I met originally, though, to talk about some of the resources that we have for undocumented students and to talk about the way we're disseminating that information, an institutional complaint process if we have any professors or any staff that may be making people feel uncomfortable in any situations, just trying to gauge some of that information. I found out that we have a lot of things going on with this, and I already knew largely that. But we are actually working on getting that information spread out as far as we can. And then I have a couple questions from some things I heard earlier. So on the I know the Ubers didn't matter for this one org from that budget document, but in the future, if an org has an expense like that, where we wouldn't be able to purchase it with our accounts, but let's say it would be something maybe we have to pay for when they're there or whatever it is, could we transfer money over to the student orgs side of things and they use a debit card from student orgs like they can normally check out? Because I know that student orgs officers can check out debit cards and there's a limit on time for that, like 72 hours. But I was curious if that's something that we have the capacity to do.
Good, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So for under our guidelines, we are specifically not allowed to give any cash donations to anything. So would that be regarding gift cards? We aren't able to do as far as with your debit card. That's more of a CMI thing. So when it comes to with student government, we're able to sponsor events. We're able to sorry. We also do not so many possible donations. It's just much more of us being able to like if so. So just to walk you through, in order to like go to us, you first have to exceed your funding with CMEI. So you have to exceed that, and then you have to go through the limits of student travel. And after those two are completed, then you're able to go with us, and you have a maximum of per person, one individual be 150, but if it's like a whole group that's going to be going, and the maximum funding that we're able to do is 1,500. And we aren't able to do allocate for any food or for any necessarily like cash donations or gift cards. Just specifically, like I have registration, we can take care of that. If you have a flight, we can take care of that. Hotels, we can take care of that. Transit as far as like going through public transportation as like the RTD or like we did in Tulane, taking those that is acceptable. But in regards of like giving them cash through a card, we are unable to do that.
Go ahead, Sky.
I want to clarify that I wasn't talking about giving them cash. I think that we would be paying for a very specific expense and putting money on a card they could use, and that money would only be for a very specific expense, and that would be very clearly detailed to them. And I'm not saying that we can do that. I was asking, but the answer I got was more so just telling me that we can't do cash, not that. I think that if we are approving some amount of money for a student org, and we feel that transportation via an Uber is necessary. Let's say they're going somewhere where there isn't public transit, or there's not public transit to their hotel, or whatever it is. And we needed to pay for their transportation, otherwise they were going to have to. And we're doing this because it's a leadership building event, whatever it is, and we think it's necessary to pay for that funding. I think we should be able to pay for an Uber. And I think that if it is possible, I would love to see that. I would like to have the advisors tell me about the debit cards and stuff offline, but thank you.
Solid question. I'll update you had, Sky. All right. Any other delegates have updates?
Just helping Susanna with the paper finals and preparing goodie bags and buttons. And I would like to thank you, as this is our last meeting. I would like to thank our advisors, Armando and Stephen, and all the fellow councils to give me this opportunity to be in this council. And I feel so privileged and wonderful to be part of this. And you guys put in so much efforts to organize all these meetings for students. So thank you so much for all that. And I believe you guys will do a commendable job every time.
Sky?
So sorry, I lied. I wasn't done. I wanted to ponder the question of the delegate program future. I think that if the delegate program is to continue next year, we would need to recruit for it over the summer and before the next council has the chance to meet in August. I was wondering and posing this question because to people that have been around here for a while, that if over the summer while the new council has training days, if we could have that discussion and talk about it, possibly vote on allocating funds for it, and then go ahead and recruit with that. I also wanted to pose that the PR committee think about that while writing the transition documents so that the new council, if deciding to keep the delegate program, would be ready to advertise the delegate program and get people in it for the very first week if we want to continue it.
That totally makes sense, Guy. We should you should get with Susanna and the PR committee to discuss more about that. Any more updates? Okay, then we move over to open floor announcements / updates.
Hello, everyone. I have a pretty big open floor announcement, and it is regarding the Teams message that I sent out. If you didn't have a chance to look at it, that's okay. I know this week was really, really busy. We had several events going on. Finals week is coming up. But UpBack just we're in the process right now of voting on some pretty important things, and I was told by Andrew that this is the first year that the TSAC member is voting on this, so it felt pretty important to me to send that message out to you guys and have this conversation right now. And if we need to talk further offline about it, we can. But there's going to be a series of things that I'm voting on, and it has a lot to do with university budget. And I can send out these documents as well, whether it's slides and stuff like that. And I actually took screenshots of it on my phone. So that's why I have my phone pulled up. But the very first one that I voted on, the series of things to vote on, was about tuition increase. And that's something that I feel like is really, really, really important. And so the first question that I was asked is an enrollment estimate. That is kind of just a projection that would then go into funding. And so I marked it as flat 0%. Projection. And then the second question was around resident tuition. So for some background, last fiscal year, the state of Colorado gave us around $9 million to run this university, which is not a lot of money. This year, they gave us 3.4, which is even less to run this university. And the majority bucket that we get funding from is student tuition. It's 55% student tuition, 45% from the state, and then 5% from the federal government. That is kind of the breakdown. So the largest pool of funding does come from student tuition. And so there was all the way from flat to 3.5%. And 3.5% is a state cap that we cannot exceed 3.5%. That we cannot exceed 3.5% due to legal precedent instated by the state of Colorado, and that would be the absolute maximum. And so I had conversations with students that I TA for. I had conversations with students, a part of the Chicano Studies Department. It was a very, very tight turnaround, and I will be talking with the committee about how to make that process a little bit more accessible, because when I was given this survey to vote on, I didn't feel like it was right for me to just vote on it by myself. And so I wanted to get student input. And I did decide to do a 1% increase. And that was not a decision that I made very lightly, because I know that that will directly impact students. You know, we are about to, if we're not already in the middle of a recession, or beginning one, however you want to say it. I'm not an economist. I just know that things aren't looking great. And so from the previous recession, 07, 08, we noticed that enrollment trends actually increased because people couldn't find work, so they came back to university. So I was thinking about that in the context of our university. We're an accessible institution, and we really try to be an accessible institution. That is kind of our mission. And so increasing it above 1% did not feel right from the student end, but also giving it
flat at 0 didn't feel right, given that it's our biggest bucket of funding. And then the last thing that I needed to vote on was non-resident tuition rate. So non-resident could include international students. It could include students from Kansas, students from Montana, any students. That is not a big bucket of funding that we get, just because we don't have a lot of non-resident students. And I also put that at a 1% flat rate. And this is kind of a long announcement, so I won't get into the number breakdown, but I will send that in our Teams chat about what each percentage looks like. There's a big jump from 0 to 1, 0 to 2, and so on. And there's a series of other things that I will be voting on, and I will keep the council as involved as I can. And I understand that people's capacities are running low. It's finals. People are graduating. I'm graduating. And so that just felt like a really important update from UPEC, and I can send our slides and our presentations. We also had presentations from different university departments, so like the ODI, Office of Diversity and Inclusion Department, Student Affairs, Academic Affairs, the Provost's office. And so everybody needs money. And we are needing to vote on how much to allocate that by. And so that is the big announcement that I have.
Matt?
Just more for a clarification, to my knowledge, with the tuition rate increase, that would only be for new students because of tuition lock.
That's correct.
Any more questions or comments for Amelia? Sky, someone want to yield their time?
I yield.
I just wanted to add another comment to that. Tuition lock works for 4 years, so it would only affect new students. However, part-time students could be here for more than 4 years, and it would affect them.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments for Amelia? Anybody? No? Any other open floor announcements? I have one, but I want to see if anyone else has one. No? All right, so yesterday OER had their first student meeting where they invited students over, and we had a good conversation there, had a good meeting. They're in the stages of getting the club approved, and so right now they're just asking for more people to join. So if you feel like you want to get involved and help your students get free resources for their tuition, textbooks, all kinds of stuff, feel free to join. It's I dropped Emily's email into the chat. I'll do it again after the meeting, but if you guys want to join, just let me know. And then with that, we will then, Irving? No? Oh, sorry.
I don't have an update, but just since this is my last meeting, I just wanted to say thank you guys for a really great year and everybody for being so freaking awesome and getting so much great work done. I've really enjoyed my time on the council.
I guess.
Some of you were cool. No, I'm just kidding. I like all of you guys. It was a fun year. I'm glad to be in charge. Also glad to not be in charge anymore. But yeah. Mike?
I'll just echo. Yeah, this is my last meeting in 3 years. This is only person who was here 3 years ago is Armando. So yeah. Yeah, no, I just want to say this is probably the most successful year in all 3 years. So keep it up. I'm excited to hear about y'all and my travels. So great work. Best year so far.
All right. We're getting this in order. Do we want to just go like this way and then everyone can give their final goodbyes? Yeah. Let's go to move the advisors updates and then we give each other our goodbyes. Advisors?
Good afternoon, TSAC. I just wanted to thank you all for Roadrunners After Dark and your support for the event. I just want to share with you what your impact really was and what it contributed to. We had 1,215 tickets sold for the event or claimed. Of those 1,215, 942 people showed up to the event. Of that 946, 382 were non-MSU Denver, 564 were MSU Denver students. So thank you, TSAC, for your support for that event, and I really appreciate it. So I yield.
Yes, congratulations on that. It was a great job, well done, and being the last tent standing, I think it was good for that last moment to be able to have some snacks towards the end. But speaking on Rad, I did want to say thank you as well, and also that cotton candy machine, if it has not been cleaned, needs to be cleaned by the end of the day today. Oh, it's clean. Perfect. Next was inauguration is May 9th. It is next week. In lieu of our meeting, that is a mandatory event for everyone to be there, old council and new members coming in. So please do all your best efforts to be on time. There is no virtual option. And dress appropriately. Yes, this is a nice formal event. Not so formal, but just look nice. Final, before I get into my thank yous, is can I have a show of hands who is graduating this semester and or this summer? So, okay, perfect. So, Sam, Brandon, Haley, Mike. Cool. And then lastly, just wanted to say thank you all for a great year. I think this is probably the longest I have
You're welcome.
this year, not you, felt this year go by. And it has been successful in terms of the impact that you have made. So continue to do great work into your futures and make sure you put this on your resume. If you need help putting this on your resume, just let me know. Moving on.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to echo everyone's congratulations on Roadrunners After Dark. It was pretty awesome to see everybody out there engaging with students and with one another and really building community. And so I want to thank all of you for just being so not only engaged, enthusiastic, and yeah,
Awesome. Thank you,
just
advisors. Did you have any more, Dr. Brown?
no, that's it.
Okay.
I just wanted to say looking forward to seeing everybody at inauguration next week. Great job, everyone.
All right. Thank you, advisors, for your updates and your accolades and announcements. Real quick, did you want to just go start from Amelia, go right here and just say thank you and stuff? All right, Amelia, start us off.
Absolutely. I want to first say thank you to the advisors throughout the whole academic year. You guys have been really supportive and really accessible, and in a way that encouraged us, sometimes challenged the way that we thought, but in a way that ultimately promoted our growth. And I think that's something that's a really unique experience that I have not already had through other spots in the university. And so I really appreciate that. And to the whole entire council, you all are lovely humans. It was a pleasure to work with you in whatever capacity we had the opportunity to. We did some amazing events. All of them were iconic. And I'm excited for everybody's next chapter. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks to everybody for being so wonderful and appreciating everybody's efforts, whatever they put in, and for arranging all those events. And how the student government works. I have learned a lot from it. And I would just say thank you to Stephen and Armando for being our advisors and making us help for every challenge. And yeah, for all the invaders for the future, I say all the best to everybody. And Dr. Barone.
I'd like to thank myself. Just kidding. No. I'm kidding. Kinda. Thank you everyone again. I'm not gonna give the whole speech, but someone we haven't thanked yet? Brandon. Which he just left, unfortunately. But I will still say this. Thank you everyone. Thank you advisors for your advice, right? And your guidance this year. Thank you to the delegates present and not present. most delegates. And thank you to Sam as a elections manager. You were fantastic this year, and I hope you find someone who is as fantastic as you, if not greater. That's a high bar, though. And then Brandon, of course. I know he's outside. Can someone grab him? Actually, I don't know. He's like right there, and I want him to hear these kind words of appreciation. Brandon, hello, man of the hour. I think we all feel this sentiment of gratefulness towards you. Like TSAC would not function properly without you, just so you know. And I believe that. So thank you, Brandon, and thank you for all the work that you put. And I really do hope you find someone as great as you as well. The bar is very high. And again, thank you for everything to TSAC and the students.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of repetitiveness going around here. But I do want to give a couple great shout outs to like Haley for helping create the delegates program. I think that was something that was amazing. Even with the hiccups, we had to start somewhere, and you set enough groundwork that we can continually improve it as years go forward. I also want to thank our PR team. As PR chair last year, you put me to shame, but that is all the best things possible. Nothing against me. You guys just did such an excellent job and worked together as a team. And we've really gotten us TSAC out there, and we've gotten a lot more recognition from faculty, staff, admin, students, community members that we didn't have the capacity to do last year. And yeah, I also echo Will's statements about thanking Brandon as well. Again, you are an integral part of this council, whether or not you're elected. I can keep going, but I think I'll yield for time.
We already said our piece.